Well, it looks like Adam is having some difficult internet issues right now, and he's a black screen. So this is a bit of a different one for sure. But yeah, I am Robert Murray. I guess I'm doing a solo pod right now because Adam is not here. Um, but yeah, very interesting. Last week or so, we've seen Matt Chapman end up going to the Giants here on a 3-year contract, which is essentially a 1-year deal. We've seen, yeah, hey, Jacob, this is your worst nightmare. You got a Robert solo pod. Yeah, exactly. But here we go. But we've seen that with the Giants. We've seen all sorts of different things. Just with baseball, obviously, we've seen teams say, like Farhan Zaid even said that he thinks the Giants are at this point likely done. We've seen some of these other teams basically come out and say the same thing. We've seen Zack Wheeler sign an extension with the Philadelphia Phillies, and there's been a lot of it. I'm going to basically be here breaking it down with myself. I was going to say, Adam Weinrib, how are you doing? But Adam is not here. But we will first start off with the Zack Wheeler extension with the Philadelphia Phillies. And that is a deal that has been a long time coming. Basically, from the start of the offseason, we've heard that the Phillies were prioritizing a Wheeler extension. First, it was getting Aaron Nola signed because that was a more pressing issue, just because he was a free agent and could negotiate with all these other teams. And obviously, the Atlanta Braves' entrance into that market for Nola obviously made things a lot more pressing and urgent, which ended up resulting in a very strong contract for Nola. But as soon as Nola was extended or signed long term, the Phillies ended up placing a lot of their priority here on getting Wheeler extended. And today or yesterday, they ended up coming to terms on a massive 3-year extension with a $42 million annual average value, which is one of the biggest pitcher deals in recent memory. It obviously brings back vibes of the Max Scherzer deal when he signed with the Mets. But now that the Phillies have those two signed long term, it obviously gives them a long-term foundation in terms of the rotation. Obviously, they have a strong front five in that rotation. We've seen the Blake Snell rumors about a possible short-term deal, or maybe that's something that that the Phillies have been interested in, at least according to Bob Nightingale. I can't necessarily say I've heard that. I would be pretty surprised if Snell ended up going to Philadelphia. Seen stranger things happen, obviously. But in terms of Snell, this is a market that is really puzzling. And we've seen, obviously, the Phillies seem unlikely. The Giants, Farhan Zaidi even said that he fully anticipates the Giants at this point being done. We've seen him say something similar right before the Matt Chapman deal, about 10 days beforehand. So I guess you can't necessarily rule anything out. To me, the Giants make so much sense for Snell. But if the Giants, as Farhan Zaidi seemed to suggest, are not involved in this, then who could it be? Could it be the Angels? Could it end up being a mystery team? We saw what Scott Boras told reporters earlier today, that there's 4 new teams that have checked in on Montgomery and Snell right since the start of spring training. So it could end up being a mystery team that ends up getting him because he did not reveal who those teams were. I still think the Giants make a lot of sense because they've seen 2 of their top 5 guys in the rotation. Whoa, look who it is. It's Adam Weinrib. He finally decided to join me.
But I promise you, look, I might be a little laggy today, but I am here for now. I got an issue while starting the stream. I mashed end stream button so Robert wouldn't be on the stream alone. It didn't work, and Robert was on the stream alone for 4 full minutes. Do I have those details correct?
Yeah, and I kind of yapped, but I did talk baseball, which that is good. That is good, and it is nice to see that you've woken up from your slumber, unlike Jacob. So thank you.
Well, that was the worst thing that's ever happened, and bear with me, everybody, if I freeze during this show, but I am still happy to help run it. Why don't I do the promo stuff up top and then catch me up on the smart things you said that I missed? This is the worst 15 minutes I've had in weeks, but today's show is brought to you by DraftKings. I do think that's important to note. And new customers to DraftKings. Get a no sweat first bet courtesy of us here at the Baseball Insiders. The promo code is Baseball Insider. That is for new users. If you haven't signed up for DraftKings Sportsbook, make sure you get your first bet on them. New customers will get a second chance bet up to $1,000 when signing up with our promo code Baseball Insider. That means if your first bet loses, you will get your full wager returned as a bonus bet up to $1,000. Go download the app if you haven't registered with that promo code Baseball Insider to make sure your first bet is covered. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. I will let everyone know there has never been a higher chance of us waking up Biscuit. He is now in the same room with us, hearing me yap, hearing Robert yap. It is extremely plausible that a dog interrupts this show almost as much, if not more, than bad Wi-Fi. But Robert, before I get into it and try to host, what did you cover that I missed?
Yeah, I ended up covering the Zack Wheeler extension for a little bit, and then I started talking about the Giants and possibly getting Blake Snell, or just some of these other teams that could be in the mix for a guy like Snell, just because there's so much mystery and intrigue that involves that one.
Yeah, that's what's most confusing to me, because Farhan Zaidi goes ahead and finishes the Matt Chapman deal prior to of course, midnight on a weekend. Like, I don't know why we can't get a normal timed big Boris 4 free agent signing. The Cody Bellinger thing was like 2:38 a.m. between a Saturday and Sunday. Matt Chapman comes through when us on the East Coast are already sleeping. And then after that signing is completed, Farhan does come out and say, quote, "The offseason is really over as far as I'm concerned." So what exactly does that mean? Insiders are claiming that the Giants are still very much in on Snell and conversations are ongoing, but was that some sort of insurance in case they don't get him so that he can sell it as a surprise? Is he really not on the front burner right now? And if he's not, what teams are still involved in the Snell chase at all? Because the Giants felt like a front runner until those comments.
Oh, they absolutely did feel like a front runner to me for Snell, and honestly, they felt like the front runner. And all of a sudden, Farhan throws a lot of cold water on that, and seems to suggest that they're done. And at this point, it's just a giant mystery, no pun intended, on what this market could end up being for Snell, because the Giants seem to suggest that they're not going to be involved here. The Phillies, as I said, I would be really surprised if they end up getting involved in this market. There's been 4 mystery teams that have checked in on Snell and Montgomery, according to Scott Boras, from what he said earlier today, since the start of spring training. So it's possible that those teams could get involved on a short-term deal, which kind of seems like what it's going to end up being at here, unless something changes. But it is just it's one of the more puzzling and unique off seasons that I can recall for some of these star players. And that being said, it's just, I guess maybe we could have seen some of this coming, maybe not necessarily all of it, because all of these players have come with different concerns, except for maybe a guy like Montgomery. I think he has really proven himself as a guy that deserves a long-term deal. But Snell, I'm not saying that Snell and these other guys didn't deserve it, but I think there's more questions involving a Snell or a Bellinger or a Chapman than there was a Montgomery. Just a really puzzling offseason. And honestly, just as I said, I can't recall a star player having this much uncertainty in free agency as Snell has. It's truly remarkable where we're at right now.
And Farhan's comments only further added to that pile. Even when we think we're getting closer to a resolution, we're still not. And, the finality never comes. There were tweets this weekend about, prevailing wisdom, executives saying it kind of feels like Montgomery ends up a Red Sox at this point. But is that just the prevailing thought? Has anything actually moved closer to occurring? The prevailing wisdom was Snell would be a Giant until Farhan Zaidi threw a big old wrench in there. And now it's Angels, or maybe it's the Phillies on a short-term high AAV deal, but Zack Wheeler just signed a short-term high AAV deal. So teams keep revealing themselves and then disappearing again in the same 24-hour period. It's very confusing for the viewer out here.
Oh, it's extremely confusing. And trying to pinpoint exactly who these teams that are in, like these 4 mystery teams that Boras suggested for both Snell and Montgomery, is just a total guess. And then we're also trying to figure out like what the contract will be for these guys. Just everything about their free agency has just been a giant mystery. And I'm kind of in, I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it when it comes to the Snell and Giants stuff that Farhan seemed to kind of really throw cold water on. There's other pitchers that are available too that I think, I mean, Mike Clevenger and like a Michael Lorenzen type. I will say one team that has been quietly like scanning that market, or at least having some sort of discussions, has been the Brewers. I don't know the likelihood that they would end up signing one of those mid-tier guys. But with the Wade Miley injury and the uncertainty with him for opening day, and just obviously he's toward the back half of his career for sure. Having an insurance policy like a Clevenger or something like that wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing in the world. And based on what I'm gathering, could end up being a pretty affordable deal. So we'll see.
Brewers is a pretty important one. Should we aggregate that puppy? Can we get the aggregators on that or no?
I mean, if you want, yeah, the Brewers have been scanning the market for some of these mid-tier guys. Yeah, I mean that's not guaranteeing that they're going to sign them at all. That doesn't mean something is imminent. That doesn't mean anything's close. It just, they've scanned the market, and if there's value, then I think they'd pounce. But I don't think they'd overspend for these guys.
I have an important question that has to do with the top of the show when I was not on, because I don't think I even realized I don't think I even realized the full scope of what happened until right now. You thought I was going to be on until we went live and I just wasn't there.
Yeah, that was like, yeah, because I was expecting, I was like, hey, Adam, how's it going? All of a sudden, it's just legit a black screen, and there's nobody there. And I just, I almost shit my pants live on air. That was genuinely terrifying.
I will just say, I hear you, but I spent 4 minutes behind the black screen, also definitely shitting my pants to confirm. So just because I wasn't doing it on the air does not mean that both hosts of this show were not filling their diapers, a la Garrett Cole giving up a spring training home run to Daniel Vogelback. I had a lost connection screen in the middle of the countdown. And I was like, oh, and this is what everybody wants, by the way. Everybody wants the behind the scenes production stuff, right? That's why you guys come to the Baseball Insiders. I got the misconnection thing, and I was like, oh no, it's going to go live, and I'm not going to be on the air, or I'm going to be frozen, or I'm going to be on the air on my phone, not able to hear Robert or something. I might as well mash the end stream button now so that we don't go live, and so nothing crazy happens. So I mashed the end stream button, and I texted Robert. It glitched out again. I had to end the stream. Little did I know he's on the air the entire time. And my internet glitched out so much that I couldn't even press buttons. I tried to log in 3 more times. There were unpressable buttons, like a bad dream, where you're like trying to write your name and there's just nothing's coming out. And you're trying to take the SATs and you're like, this pencil is out of lead. How is that possible? That's what happened to me behind the scenes. Honestly, that's almost as interesting as the current market for Jordan Montgomery, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that's the most excitement I've had in the week. But yeah, it was crazy. Speaking of excitement, by the way, I kind of want to take a little bit of a side note here. Jason Kelce announced his retirement today. Mm-hmm. And if you loyal viewers of this show know, I'm a diehard Birds fan. That is, I don't know Eagles fandom without Jason Kelce. It's my Mount Rushmore of Eagles players that I just genuinely love. Are Brian Dawkins and Jason Kelce. That's the list. And I just want to give Jason Kelce a huge shout out. He's done a lot for me without even knowing it. He's done a lot for Philadelphia and the Eagles. And I just want to give him a salute and say thank you for a great time in Philly. And yeah, enjoy retirement. We'll see you in Canton.
I got a fun fact that you might not know. Do you know that Jason Kelce's wedding photographer shot my wedding?
No.
Yeah. Shout out to AGP Collective. Follow them on Instagram and all the socials. She put up some good photos from Jason's wedding today, but she was also my wedding photographer. So brag, not a humble brag, actually just a regular brag. But shout out to Jason Kelce, good Philadelphia Eagle, even though it's a team I don't root for. Grecian 5 in the comments. Is it true? The Yankees concerned about Garrett Cole being mean to his butler, indicate they could go after Blake Snell. That's a great question, and I do think it's worth examining because Snell is nothing but accommodating and kind in his Fortnite streams. I do think his manners might be a little better at this point in time than Garrett Cole. But like Garrett says, he never forgets a lot of things, so he won't forget that comment from you either, and will be revisiting it during the regular season.
No, for sure. And I'll tell you Gresham 5, hello. I hope you enjoy your Gresham 5 time this weekend. I will first say that. And then there's also a super chat here.
There is. And we love it when you guys give us super chats, by the way. It's a fun feeling that I don't think we anticipate. We're like, oh, super chats.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, I'll even address this one right here. He says, is the feel that the market isn't there for Snell and then still nothing on the Yankees? Feels like if the money comes down, they can get him. I would be pretty surprised. It's just, I don't think that is particularly likely. And also a short-term deal to me makes it less likely for the Yankees to get involved just because a short-term deal is going to require more on an annual basis. And if the Yankees sign him, they got to pay 110% tax on that, which would make that a really, really, really expensive signing. I'm not going to say it's impossible. I'm not going to say it's not happening, but I'd be pretty surprised by that. So I would not get your hopes up there.
It's definitely one of those things where it's easier for fans to stomach than it is the people actually in charge of the money. Like, it is easier for a fan to sit here and be like, it's 110% tax, so do it anyway because it makes your team better. So why wouldn't you just do it? But like, let's say you're already not sold on Blake Snell, the player, which it's clear the Yankees are not entirely sold on Blake Snell, the long-term contract recipient, then take all the security, like, okay, fine, we'll do a short-term high AAV. Well, that takes away the Yankees' favorite bargaining chip because what they like to do is stretch out contracts to lower the AAV rather than front-load it. So you're telling the Yankees, you can have Blake Snell, who you might not even like that much to begin with, and you're kind of signing as rotation insurance, but you can't do your favorite trick, and you have to pay the tax, so it's more expensive now, and it's coming on the heels of Carlos Rodon's contract last year, which was a complete failure in year one and might not be years 2 through 6, but so far, so bad. So same agent, same style pitcher, more money up front, more tax, and you don't love the player anyway. It's sort of like, it's a lot of negatives. And what are the positives? Just making the fans feel a little bit better about the rotation depth for a month before somebody else goes down, and then they're right back to where they started. But Blake Snell's not a sure thing anyway. I'm just advocating. I'm not even advocating one way or the other. I'm just doing the contrarian devil's advocate take. And it kind of feels like that's the way the Yankees are thinking.
No, that's exactly what it is. And it's just, I just would really not get your hopes up for a signing like that unless something truly magical changes. But I don't anticipate that happening. Yeah. And just, it further increases the intrigue and the mystery around Snell. It is quite remarkable just how little we know about that free agency.
Well, Farhan didn't help, but he did make an addition to the roster in Matt Chapman. I'm not sold necessarily on Chapman long-term in San Francisco. I'm not sold on Chapman's power showing up in San Francisco. This will be a very odd year for him, and he might even have to enter the market again after the season concludes. But let's say this is it. Let's believe Farhan at face value. You know, the offseason is really over as far as he's concerned. It's Soler, Chapman on what could equate to a 1-year deal, and Lee. It's a pretty good trio, but they have not addressed the rotation and have lost rotation members over the past couple of weeks without gaining additional high upside arms. Overall, let's say that's it. Kyle Harrison gets promoted into a bigger role this year as well. So the rotation does get better year over year, presumably, but Alex Cobb has ducked out for a while. DeSclafani is gone. Tristan Beck on the IL. Keaton Wynn battling issues. I mean, how do you feel about the Giants offseason overall if they really are calling it quits here?
I feel like it's been good, but not great. And they're a team that they've really tried to get the star player in recent years. They've swung, they've connected on Carlos Correa. It looked like it was going to be a home run, and then it went foul at the last second. The physical failed, and now he's with the Minnesota Twins. This offseason has been much better. Jung-Hoo Lee is someone that organization is privately really, really high on. That's something I've heard from multiple people this spring. They have also gotten, they got Chapman, who was long rumored to go to San Francisco, and that always seemed like the most prevailing like option for him, or most likely option for him. I was on a contract that was much less than people expected. And I remember on the last show, I teased a different structure for Chapman. That was what I had heard was the Michael Conforto deal, where it would be 1 year with an option. This time it was 1 year with 2 options. So it maxes out at 3 years for $54 million. And yeah, it was a hell of a signing by the Giants, I think, in terms of value, because he ended up turning down $100+ million offer from the Blue Jays prior to this offseason. I can't remember exactly when the offer was made, but I think I can't remember the timeline on it, but I believe it was in season, and just Boras does not do extensions prior to free agency. That's just something he's never done. And I am pretty confident too, he had a pretty lucrative offer from the A's when he was in Oakland. So yeah, it's obviously that did not work out. They're gonna have another bite at the apple next offseason. If he does opt out of his deal, of course. And then what was their other big move that they ended up doing? They got
Lee early, Soler late.
Soler.
I love the Soler edition, but maybe in a more complete offseason, I like it a little bit more. I think I'm a little more bullish on the Giants than I expected to be, but I'm not in love with the Chapman edition, especially not short-term contract year, run it back. Like last year was tough in a more hitter-friendly environment.
Yeah, now he's going to be in a very pitcher-friendly Oracle Park in San Francisco. It's a unique fit, but Bob Melvin and Matt Chapman they have a really good relationship. And that was something that I heard many times throughout the offseason. And obviously it ended up playing out. Two sides are very familiar with one another, and now he's going to try to have a really bounce back season in San Francisco with the hopes of getting back to free agency next year. But I think it was a good offseason for the Giants, but not great. But Snell, if they landed him, would get the Giants to a great category. I think they should do it. I'm just not as optimistic about that as I was even like 96 hours ago, just because of Farhan's comments.
Yeah, I thought it was almost set in stone when I went to bed Friday, potentially even more so when I woke up to the Chapman news. Yes, I was, in fact, sleeping. Got to do that from time to time. My computer was doing that not 15 minutes ago. But until Farhan spoke, I did still believe that Blake Snell would be a Giant. Now I'm sort of 50-50, and let's see where the Angels offer goes. Let's see how far the Angels are willing to go here. And potentially we might see our third Scott Boras short-term high AAV opt-out after year one offer in the last couple of weeks. Not the strongest of off seasons for Scott, and he's got a big one at Juan Soto, by the way. Short-term high AAV next year could work wonders. Juan, if you want to take 2 years on $195 million with the New York Mets, maybe that could be a way to get that done. Let's take a couple questions. We got some all-star questions as well as questions in the comments. Always our Padres fans showing up, so I might as well ask. Tommy Pham recently, I know, was sort of languishing without even an offer. The Padres still don't have a completed outfield. It is March 4th, and I know everybody roasted me for saying it is March on the last show, and it was February 29th. Hey, guess what? Now it's April. I don't make the rules, but it is March 4th. Jackson Merrill opening eyes, the Padres going into their farm system to fill out the outfield, but major leaguer could be of some help here. Any Padres rumors of note?
Yeah, the Padres, they're still looking for outfield help. Pham is a player of interest for the Padres from what I've gathered. So like that is something that is on the radar. I still, as I said on the last podcast, I'm skeptical that they're going to end up paying like the top of market for some of these guys, just because I don't think they have too much money to spend here. But to me, they have to get one of them. And it's just a case of whether it's a Pham or it's a Duvall or it's a Michael Taylor or just one of those guys. But they're going to have to go get some of these guys because their outfield as currently constructed is not good enough. That being said, Jackson Merrill, he is someone that is definitely figuring into their outfield picture, and it looks like he's a strong candidate for either opening day or early in the season. But that being said, going to these free agent outfielders, whether it's Duvall or it's Michael Taylor or it's any of these top guys or Pham, I am under the impression that all of them are at this point looking at 1-year deals. I wouldn't rule out a 2-year deal for Taylor, but that is not the likeliest option. I think it's going to end up being a 1-year deal for Taylor. There's a lot of these teams that are kind of circling around on that. I think there's a fair amount of teams that are looking at each one of these guys. And considering they're still available on what is today, like March 4th, it's remarkable. And it could end up being a real good value sign. And some of these teams could end up paying off for it in the long haul.
Yeah, it would be tough to envision a 2-year deal at this point for just about anybody, especially when the Boris 4 are taking front-loaded 1-year deal with several opt-outs. So we'll definitely see what goes on. This is from Beyond the Halo in the All-Star channel of our Discord. And again, that All-Star exclusive call is Wednesday night, 7 Eastern. You still have time to sign up if you haven't yet. We'll see you there. But Beyond the Halo's question, we've talked a little bit about the Angels and Blake Snell, of course. It is time for them to pony up if they want to get this done. And the Giants have given them an opening. But once upon a time this offseason, they were still tied to Joey Votto. They were still tied to the DH market in some capacity. And Beyond the Halo wants to know if they are still involved in that market, whether it be Votto, Brandon Belt, JD Martinez, etc. These very recent all-stars who are still floundering on the market as well.
Yeah, I do know the Angels, they like Joey Votto. Those rumors are indeed true. I don't like, you've seen Votto's posts on Instagram or Twitter, and just, he clearly wants to sign with the team, but there's just been no offers that have been good enough for him to take him quite yet. But he is a player of interest there. I don't know about Brandon Belt. I am surprised that he's still available. I do think a team like the Texas Rangers makes a lot of sense for Brandon Belt. But as far as the rest of their offseason goes, to me, like Blake Snell makes so much sense in the fact that it gives them a frontline starting pitcher. It's obviously satisfies Trout's desire for a star on that roster. It would make that offseason sting a little bit less. But that being said, how much does that really move the needle? How much does a Snell signing move the needle for them? How much would a JD Martinez signing move the needle for them? Clearly, they're worse than they were entering the offseason. There's no real way of refuting that. But I do think, whether it's a Duvall or a JD Martinez type, I do think that they'll be involved. But that being said, categorizing the likelihood of any Angels move is a really difficult proposition. And it'll come down to price. It'll come down to fit. And if something aligns where the price makes sense and the fit's really strong, then they'll pounce. But yeah, the likelihood on it, I don't know. And it's just a really bizarre offseason. It's truly bizarre. But I do think the Angels, they should explore these markets because their team deserves to be better. And Mike Trout, he deserves a lot better than what he's gotten so far.
Well, Joey Votto, if he still does need an offer when the season begins, we could use a third co-host for episodes when I don't have internet access. So that could be helpful. I'd be open to it. Maybe short-term high AAV if he'd be open to exploring that. Couple important comments as well. Obviously, a burner says it looks like I have a blazer on. Is anybody else seeing that? Does anybody else think it looks like I have a blazer on? Because I'd love to. It's a good look if I manage to turn this black T-shirt into a blazer. But either way, appreciate the compliment as always, assuming that it is meant as a compliment, because unlike Garrett Cole, I am extremely kind to my butlers. And Andrew Lee waiting on his Jersey Mike's to arrive. Worth noting, I also ate Jersey Mike's for lunch today. So not necessarily a question, but certainly a comment that I want to tip my cap to. Good sandwiches. Those people are fine purveyors of meats and cheeses. Jays talk. Gamer Geek would like some Jays talk before we sign off. This has sort of been a strange offseason for them, other than catching strays recently. When Chapman does take that cheaper deal in San Francisco, you think about him turning down that deal. I guess that's not, I don't know who that reflects. It's a bummer for Chapman that he missed out on the money, but if he's a $54 million player now, the Jays save $50 million, but also don't have the player. I mean, is anything developing? And they told us they were done quite a while ago. I guess the confusing thing for Toronto is that no Matt Chapman, they have Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and the dollar difference is not that large at this juncture.
No, and I'll tell you, the Isaiah Kiner-Falefa deal is regarded in league circles as one of the best player deals of the offseason. The fact that he got 2 years for $15 million, obviously he's a good player, don't get me wrong. But considering all the other deals that have been out in the market, he did really well for himself. And there was a lot of 2-year interest in him around the league. But the fact that he got $15 million guaranteed over 2 seasons in this market is a job well done by Kiner-Falefa and his representatives, because that is a really, really, really strong deal. But as far as the Jays go overall, I think the area where we're going to have to watch them the most here is their infield depth. And they can end up doing, if they wanted to move like a Santiago Espinal, I wonder if they can end up getting an outfielder in return for him. I saw, I want to say it was Ben Nicholson-Smith who floated out the scenario of possibly moving Espinal for a guy like Austin Slater with the Giants. I mean, he was connecting the dots, and that's not, I don't think he was reporting any deal happening there. This was a couple weeks ago or a few weeks ago. But maybe something along those lines where you're trying to trade from a position of strength to upgrade a position of weakness. Obviously they got Vogelbach and Eduardo Escobar on minor league deals, and surely they probably have opt-outs at the end of spring just in case they don't make the opening day roster. But yeah, I've not heard of any big Jays talk for quite a while. So I would temper expectations there. And yeah, that's not the offseason that the Jays fans wanted. I feel like I can confidently say that.
I feel like the biggest Jays talk in recent days has been Daniel Vogelbach again talking with his bat and his strut against Garrett Cole in the first inning on Friday night. Garrett Cole's not going to forget that, by the way. No, he definitely won't forget that because everybody laughed at him and told him to shut up. So he's certainly going to remember it. But he can't throw fastballs. He can't throw brushback pitches to every member of Blue Jays Twitter. So I guess he has to reserve those for Vogelbach if he does see him at the major league level this year. What's your take on that? Obviously, you can't mention anything or else everybody says you're a big baby. But I don't know. Is a pitcher supposed to love, giving up a 450-foot home run in his spring training debut? And then when he's asked about it, what's he supposed to say? Like, I loved it. It was sick. I wish he was even slower. Like, I don't know. Obviously, I'm a little biased here.
Yeah, I'll tell you, like, I mean, home runs happen in spring training. It doesn't matter.
No.
But that being said, like, getting grumpy and saying that he won't forget Vogelbach hitting a home run in spring training, that felt really ridiculous to me. I thought, I'm not kidding you, I saw that, and I thought that was like one of those fake accounts tweeting a fake quote or whatever. And I actually saw the video with it, and I'm like, what in the world? And being totally real, that's probably as fast as Daniel Vogelbach can run. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. But that being said, I can't imagine there was any ill intent from Vogelbach at all. I've heard from countless people over the last few years who have been around him and have just raved about him as a human and just saying that he's one of the best teammates that they've ever been around. And yeah, I can't imagine there was any ill intent. And even then, and we're talking about a spring training game. It was late February, early March, or whenever it happened. Yeah, that is about as fake of a controversy as I can recall. I don't even know if controversy is the right word, but that can't. I don't know. That was just really bizarre.
Vogelbach actually texted me and said that there was ill intent, and the next time he sees Garrett Cole in a back alley, it's going down. So I don't know. It's a weird text to get. It's from a number I didn't have saved in my phone. So I don't know if it's legit or not, but there you go.
Yeah, we should clarify that. I don't think that happened.
That never happened.
I want to avoid the aggregators. Yeah, that's.
I actually really hope that the aggregators, for the first time ever, aggregate something I said, and it said Daniel Vogelbach texted me from a burner.
Yeah, no, I don't. Well, if he did text you from a burner, I'd be pretty impressed. That'd be pretty damn funny.
I don't think it happened. But I do look forward to potentially seeing some aggregators aggregating me on that one. Anything else, Robert, that you want to mention? Any other spring training eye openers so far? Things that you've seen, or anything from the notebook that I have not touched upon? And man, it felt good to be back on the stream, but it was tough digging out of a hole here, trying to figure out what got said while I was gone. I think everybody should give Robert a medal for sticking with it, and also give Biscuit a medal, who has been in this room with a loud podcast for 35 minutes, not making a peep. So shout out to Biscuit, who has never been silent for 35 minutes before.
Yeah, shout out to Biscuit. We love Biscuit. But I will give one more note here. There was a question in here about Willy Adames at a possible extension with the Brewers. I would be very, 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 very surprised if that happened this spring or just in general. I think this is more likely than not Adames' last season in Milwaukee, unless something changes. But yeah, I'd be pretty surprised if he gets extended. So yeah, I would not look out for that.
There you go. Keep the trade rumors to a minimum, but this seems like it is likely Willy Adames' final season in Milwaukee. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We really appreciate it. Thanks for sticking it out through the technical difficulties. Thanks for sticking it out through the delay. That's why Baseball Insider's viewers are the best in sports, in the sports world, better than any fans of any other piece of media. Jason Kelce's New Heights podcast, take a hike. Baseball Insider's fans are superior. You guys are the best. I am Adam Weinrib for Robert Murray. Robert, they'll see us again on Thursday at 3:30 Eastern time. I believe pending another calamity, right? We will be right back here.
We will be right back here on Thursday. We also have the All-Star calls this week. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, stay tuned, All-Stars. We will drop that link and any further details in the All-Star channel in the Discord. If you want to join and you haven't signed up yet, pop by the All-Star channel between now and Wednesday afternoon. We will see you on that private 1-hour stream. Again, assuming my internet holds up and Robert doesn't have to do it solo for an hour with the sharks in the water.
Exactly. Fingers crossed. But no, we appreciate you all for tuning in, sticking with me. And yeah, we'll see you guys on Thursday. And for the All-Star people, we'll see you earlier this week then. So that'll be cool.
Yeah. Take care, everybody. For Robert Murray, I am Adam Weinrib. We will catch most of you again here, same channel, Thursday afternoon, 3:30 Eastern. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.